Hello, 5th grade. Today we're talking about paper weaving Kente cloths. In honor of Black History Month, I want to really explore the meaning of Kente cloths, especially in African American culture, and as well as get our hands moving. This is a 2-day lesson, so I want you guys to please be prepared to keep whatever we work on today and whatever you finish today close by, because the next time we have art together, we're going to go back to this and we're going to add the finishing touches to it. So number 1, I'd like to start with just reviewing our goals for today. So 5th grade, you have 3 goals. Number 1 is I want you to listen to the book, The Spider Weaver. The Spider Weaver is posted on Schoology, is the first link. When you click on it, it is a story that explains the folk tale or the legend of the Kente cloth. It is very interesting to see the imagery as well as the cultural story behind these really important weavings. I want you to explore that first. While you listen to it, you can gather your supplies. Your supplies should be a ruler, a pencil, colored paper. If you don't have colored paper, you can choose to either go to the school and I have a art tub where you can grab some colored paper. If not, white paper works well too, as you could see. You can weave with white paper. I'll tell you all about how to do that, and we'll just add color to it. You'll also need a pair of scissors to cut your paper strips if you haven't cut those already. So those are your supplies you're going to need. You can gather those supplies and listen to the story kind of at the same time. So that's one goal. You're going to also weave our paper strips in a colored pattern, and that's the biggest part of our work. So that goal is our studio making. So we are going to weave our paper strips into a pattern that you see on here. We'll walk through it together, but we got to make sure that step is done today to be ready for the next day. And then the last goal that you have for today is we're going to post a picture of this on the discussion board so I can see what you've done so far. So on this project example, I have little symbols drawn on it. Don't worry about that. We're only weaving today, and we're going to focus on getting that colored pattern that you see underneath the symbols on this one. So those are our goals. You've got those 3 goals. If you'd like to rewind and write those down, you can. They're also posted on Schoology, so you know the exact things you need to do for today. So again, this is a 2-day lesson. Really, really important to save this somewhere. Let's really quickly talk about this paper weaving. There's a couple terms I want you guys to know. Number 1 is the loom. The loom is what we're weaving inside of. So as you can see along the edges, these are paper strips. These are what we're weaving with. I also am going to refer to these as wefts. Wefts kind of sound like left, but with a W. These are what we weave through our loom. So my loom is the color purple. You can see it on the background. And these colors go in and out, up and down around my loom. Those are important terms that I'm going to be mentioning a lot. So let's really dive into the Kente cloth and why it is really important for us to know the rich culture behind it. If you look at this PDF that you see in front of you, this is on Schoology as well, so you can go on Schoology and look at this whenever. The reason this is important because it has a color code sheet that we're going to use to choose our colors for today, as well as a quick definition of these cloths. So together we can read the Kente cloth. It's a hand-woven cloth originally made by the Ashanti people in the West African country of Ghana. Originally reserved for royalty, today it is worn by all. It is characterized by patterns and specific colors, all of which have special meaning. And then you can see the map of where Ghana is in Africa. You can read underneath on those colors what these colors represent. I want you guys to choose 4 of those colors. Choose 4 colors that either really resonate with you or you just like those colors together and they have important meanings with them. We're going to use these colors to weave together to create a cloth special for us. and then the next time I see you, we're going to add patterns to it. Because when you look at examples of Kente cloths, you see those rich colors, you see those very specific patterns, and you can see how these all are so unique. Every single one you see are different depending on the person that wears them. So without further ado, let's get creating. So I'm going to move this off to the side, right in the corner, so you can see a little bit of it, kind of like an end goal. I'm going to move these papers. So I chose yellow, I chose blue, I chose green, whoop, and purple. Now, friends at home, if you did not come to the school, or you can't come to the school, and you only have white paper, no problem. You're just going to use the color white, and next week when we draw our patterns, you're just going to use the color markers to draw the pattern. So you'll still have your color symbolism in them, but you might just not have the color paper that we use today. No problem, we're doing the same process. Now, if you had a colored piece of paper, when you cut the strips, this is where that ruler is going to come in handy. I like to make my strips very long, so when I weave with them this way, they peek out the sides, making it a little bit easier for me to weave. So I want you guys to turn it long ways, line up that ruler, and you're going to draw 9 little tick marks to mark off an inch each. I'll use my marker so you can see them a little bit better, to make sure that I can make even long strips of paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 at the very bottom. I then connect my 2 dots so I can make a perfect strip. It's really going to help me when I cut them out. So now I can see my stripes 1 inch long ways. I now take my scissors and I cut those so that I have perfect strips or wefts for my weaving. So there I have one of my colors cut out. Now notice that I flip them over so I don't see them in my pencil or marker. And so when I flip them, I have clean red stripes of paper. This might take a while, so take your time. If you'd like to only do 2 colors, maybe you only have 2 colors, don't worry, you can always limit your colors if you'd like. But in the room, we're going to be using 4 colors. If you would like to limit it to 2 colors, you can absolutely do that. Make sure you have a pile of your colored strips off to the side. Our next step is we're going to create our loom. Now, our loom colored paper is not chopped up into stripes. This is only going to be folded once, and then you'll see how we cut it. So friends, with me, we're going to fold it down, almost like the hamburger fold. Go top to bottom, not long ways, and then I fold it in the middle. It's important to take your time and make sure that your bottom is completely lined up. So I mush it and make sure it is super folded, and then I have my folded edge and I have my opened edge. With my folded edge, I'm going to draw 8 lines, or 8 little dashes. These dashes are going to show where I'm going to cut down. And I'm going to cut down so that I can make my loom ready to be woven through. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I make these 1 inch again. So 1 inch is for everything today. And I just make these little tick marks so I know exactly where I'm going to be cutting down. Now before we cut though, I want you to look at this opening over here. So we don't chop our paper in half. We need to make sure that there is a strip of free space where we don't cut at all. Now with this, you can just take your ruler, put your ruler right up against the fold, and just use however big that ruler is as your buffer, I call it. And this line that you draw is going to be your stop cutting line. Whoop. And I draw that line all the way down. Now, just so you know, what's going to happen is when we cut across, we're going to stop at this line, and it's going to start to look almost like a open rib cage. You're going to see stripes with space in between, and this is going to stay intact. We're not going to cut all the way across. We made this line so that no more cutting is going to go past that line. Now, it's up to you. If you would like to use your ruler to create straight lines from that little dash mark we made, you can. If you trust that you can cut across without a line, you can do that as well. It's kind of an extra step. If you're using white paper, you can use just the same white paper as we're using with the color paper. So now, remember, this is folded. This is my open side, and this is my folded side. I have a whole bunch of those lines that my ruler helped me with. If you don't have a ruler at home, I forgot to mention this, but you can really use any straight edge of a book, a folder, or really anything that you see, maybe a mat that is straight, and you can line up and use that. My next step is I need to cut. I'm going to cut my folded edge. I'm going to cut along the line, and I go, 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 go until I hit that line and I stop. If you keep chopping, you're going to chop it in half and have another paper strip, which you could use, but we want this to stop at that stop cutting line. So I cut, and I stop. And then I go back to my next line. I cut, all the way to the top, and I stop. And I keep on going. All right, so remember how I said it's going to kind of look like a rib cage? Look at these crazy, almost like French fries it looks like right now on the camera. But you want to have equal lines, have this open space, and then we open it up. Woo! When you open it up, you now have a loom. So you should be able to kind of run your fingers through the middle. Just like that. Because that's what we're going to be doing with our paper strips. So now, give yourself a break. I know we've done a ton, so friends online, if you need to go stretch your legs, take a little walk, maybe use the restroom, get a drink of water, go ahead and do that. Pause here, and then when you come back, we're going to finish up our art class today with weaving. All right, so welcome back if you took a break. If not, let's get right to it. You should have your pile of 3 different colors. I chose blue, green, and purple. With my example over here, I used red, blue, yellow, blue, red, blue, yellow, blue, red. So what I did was I just alternated red with yellow in between my blues. Friends, it's up to you on how you would like to do your color pattern, because patterns, they're just repeating colors. So choose which one you would like. I think I'm going to do green, blue, purple. Basically gonna look like at one point. Now, it gets a little confusing when we get started, so I'm gonna go nice and slow. I'm gonna have you watch first, and then we're gonna get started together. I want to start with my green, and my first color is going to go on the very bottom. So when I weave, I like to push everything to the bottom, and sometimes I flip my paper over. You're going to do whatever's comfortable with you. I'm going to take my strip of paper, also called the weft, and I'm going to hold my loom down, and my first one, I'm going to go under my first piece of paper. I then go under, or I go over my yellow, under, over, under, over, under, and over. And I push, push, push until it looks a little bit like this, where I have some tail of the paper, but I see that I've created kind of another pattern. Yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow. I started by taking my green and going under the yellow. So now with my blue, I know it's time for me to go the opposite direction. I take this and I go over my yellow, under my yellow, and I keep on going. Remember, this is also called, I'm weaving my weft through my loom. The yellow paper is my loom. So what I did was the complete opposite. And when I mush my paper down, my weft down, I make sure it's nice and straight, and I just use my fingers to push, push, push. And then I push this one down so that you can feel it starts getting snug. It wants to stay. I double check now. I make sure that my yellows aren't touching each other. They're nice and diagonal. I now have the opposite pattern where I have blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. Don't worry about these little things. I kept them on mine because I kind of like the way that they look, but if you'd like to take them off, we're going to take them off later. But right now, these are going to help us when we weave. Here's my last color of my pattern. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my green one, though. I go under the loom, over. This time I'm going to use kind of both of my hands. So I have gone ahead and done a couple already, but I want to show you that I am just continuing my pattern, but I'm also paying attention to my color pattern as well. And I am just weaving. So I am already about halfway done. Remember, as you're doing this, go slow. Don't worry if you need to take some breaks. That is totally fine. And if we don't finish this weaving part, don't worry. We'll finish it up first thing when I see you next. As you're creating today, if you have any questions or you're frustrated and you need some guidance, please feel free to message me on Schoology. I am always here for you, even if I don't respond in the same class period. Don't worry, we'll make it work. I am here to help. So I flip my whole weaving over so that I can kind of start on finishing up and working on the bottom. You can do whatever feels right for you. Remember to keep mushing your paper up, sliding those wefts all the way up. My next color is blue, and I'm getting to the finish line, so I'm almost there. Slide this up. So even though I still see a little bit of space, I know I can't fit an entire piece of paper. So I'm going to slide that down. I'm going to kind of move these guys and slide them down so there's a little bit more space. They're all even. And there we go. I have my weaving done. Now it looks a little different than the finished product because we're going to spend next week focusing on these patterns as well as maybe putting a little extra weaving element to it if we want it to look that way. And be proud of yourself. You guys have done an enormous amount of work today and I'm sure they look great. And I cannot wait to see them posted on Schoology on the discussion board. Now, too, I want you guys to please, and I know I said this already a couple times, put this somewhere safe. Especially if you've done all this work today, I don't want these to accidentally get lost or fall behind somewhere. Don't overwork yourself. Make sure that those 3 goals that we listed in the beginning of class are done today, or at least done before next class. So, listening to the Spider Weaver, weaving what we just did together, and taking a picture and uploading it to the discussion board. All right, friends, happy creating, and I cannot wait to see your finished work.